Well, things don't go as planned on this one, but at least we made a recovery with something else. That's next. Welcome to this week's video. As you can see, we're outside. I haven't been outside in a while. And this is a big old gnarly piece of walnut that was given to me by a friend of mine who lives up the highway here. And I wasn't exactly sure what I want to do with this piece. I've been holding on to it for a long time. I believe he said it was in his garage for 20 years or something like that. Anyway, it was in my kiln for almost 3 months, making sure that it was good and dry before we proceeded to do what we're doing here. And again, I didn't really know what I was going to do with this, but I figured at least I'd have a book match set that we could work with. And of course, I heat with wood heat, so there's where the scraps go. And also my intention for dramatic effect was I was going to smash this up into pieces with a hammer and then, glue it in the form. But it was so rotten. All those light colored areas, that's all dry rot as well. Anyway, it was so rotten that it literally just fell apart after I trimmed it up. And so, we'll have to save that for our next time. And there you get a look at essentially what the casting is going to be for this week. Now this had all kinds of bark inclusions in it. That was actually a little knot branch that was growing in it. Uh, Lots of bark inclusions, dry rot. There was even a bit of soil in there as well. So yeah, it's important to blow that all out, especially those cracks. You'd be amazed at how much material is down inside of those cracks. And then of course, when you pour your resin, that stuff's going to float around in it, and it's not going to give you the look that you're looking for. Since I'm trying to maintain spacing here, I decided to glue these pieces in place. I want to make sure that, I didn't measure anything. I just kind of eyeballed things and placed it where I thought that it would work. This week we're going to be using the deep cast from Designer Epoxy. And speaking of Designer Epoxy, we're not going to use code InlayGem21. It is now just strictly Inlay Gem. That way we don't have to keep changing it every year. So again, you'll get 10% off your order when you use code InlayGem at checkout. I didn't have a bucket to mix this material in, so that's why I'm using this bowl. Lemon glitter is what I decided to go with. I thought that it would really go well with this, a good contrast with the black walnut. So that's kind of why I went with that color. And it definitely is very lemony. Anyway, it's always important to mix your epoxy correctly because you'll see what happens in the near future here when you don't. So the initial 3 liters went in. I pressurized this for an hour, then went back and added another liter. And when I added that last liter, I don't think it was mixed correctly and it caused a whole host of problems. I should also say that the form that I'm using was actually made and used for the magenta platter. And just coincidentally, when I bought my larger pressure pot, it fit in there exactly. So if you can make the best use of your pressure pot, then great. So for those of you who miss me struggling trying to get these castings out of the forms that I use, well, you'll be maybe chuckling at this. This, like I said, was a very, very tight fit, and actually I had to take the mounting bolts out and put the pot on the side so I could get the casting out. That's what you call maximizing your pressure pot. Holy. So this form doesn't have a hole in the bottom of it to put compressed air in to pop the casting out. So I went ahead and drilled the hole and I was like, uh-oh, something's going on here. So I debated on just putting some tape on it and put it back in the casting room where there's heat. But I decided it's probably best to take it out of the form to see what's going on because the top is cured. Well, I don't know what to say. That's a first for me. I've never encountered this problem before. The resin looks like it's totally cured on the top, but it's not inside. It's been 48 hours, and this amount of resin should be cured. I don't know what to do here. Wow. Well, I'm gonna have to put it. I'm gonna have to put it back in the clean room, I guess, for another day. I'm very, very surprised by this. Oh well, I guess we'll see you in another day. All right. Don't really know what's going on here. This is the resin, and it's only about, you know, a 1/16 of an inch where it hasn't cured. It's just got, I mean, this is after 60 hours, and there's no way that that should be like that. When I did the first big pour was around 3 liters. I went back and I reviewed that footage, and that was mixed properly. I didn't record mixing the last batch of resin that I put in. So after talking to Designer Epoxy, we've come to the conclusion that maybe I didn't mix that second batch correctly. This thing is cured. Like it is hard, but it's got this uncured resin that would probably equivalent to maybe about 1/4 of an inch in thickness that didn't cure. So, you know, if you've ever encountered any of this, I certainly would like to hear from you, your thoughts on it. What I think I'm going to do is get a new piece of plastic. This is savable. I don't think that there's anything wrong with casting other than the fact that we've got this uncured resin just kind of on the surface here. So what I'm going to do is actually get another clean piece of plastic, because I've got all this on here, and I'm going to run this through my drum sander to flatten it, and then we'll get a glue block on it, clean this surface off, get it on the lathe and trim it away and see what we're dealing with. Anyway, it's frustrating to say the least, but you know, it's probably, we're going to assume, improper mixing. Anyway, let's hear your thoughts on that. So at this point, I'm saying to myself, all right, I'll just run this through the drum sander. I'll get a glue block on the bottom of it, and we should be able to use this for this week's project. But after I get done running it through the drum sander and flattening one side of it, and I didn't have to do this, I just decided to do this. I noticed that there was a bunch of resin weeping through it. All right, so here's where we're at. We're gonna have to postpone this for about a week for this anyway. But when I went investigating and looking at my bottles this morning, I noticed that I always mark on the top of the bottle which is A and which is B, and the date, because, you know, again, it's only good for about 6 months, so you want to make sure you use it up. And B was on A and A was on B. So there's a good chance that I screwed that up. Now, with that said, this is a good solid casting. But we've got all of this resin weeping through here, this uncured resin. And I'm assuming, zoom in a little bit here so you can see, I'm assuming that that is A coming through. Talking to Designer Epoxy, they think that, you know, it should eventually harden up. And what I will probably do is just keep wiping it down with acetone, and hopefully that will get rid of any of that loose epoxy, especially after we get it on the lathe and get it spinning. But for now, I want to leave it for a week and see if it actually sorts itself out. In the meantime, since we're really short on time, let's just do a inlay. This is some of that fantastic butternut. As you can see, it's got a nice little shape to it. And Joyce sent us this Caradon chips. So I was thinking that maybe we could inlay this in maybe some black resin or something. Not 100% sure on that yet. But anyway, that's next. So hitting the reset button. As you can see, I've got a glue block on the bottom of this beautiful butternut bowl. We have a lot of new subscribers and a lot of new people viewing my videos. So I thought I would just point this out again. I'm left-handed, so I like to turn on the outboard end on left-hand threads on my 20-inch General. And a lot of righties, when they're watching this, see it as being backwards to them. But of course, if you're left-handed, it looks normal to you. So I just thought I'd mention that because there's been a few questions lately where people were wondering what's going on, and that's the reason why. With all that said, all of these techniques that you see here can be used left-handed or right-handed. It's just whatever you prefer. And I thought I'd slow this footage down just so you can see this little push cut happening with the 5/8 bowl gouge. Just finishing up with some shear scraping here. If you've turned any butternut, you'll know that it's quite soft and it's quite easy, prone to tear out. So doing that shear cut it certainly will give you a good tool surface prior to sanding. So if you made it this far, thank you so much. I appreciate it. A lot of new subscribers, like I said. A lot of new people viewing my videos, so that's awesome. I really appreciate it. And if you think that I've earned your subscription, please hit that subscribe button. I would really appreciate it. And don't forget your bell notification. You'll know when the video goes up. So I'm just working on wall thickness here, taking this piece down, not to its final size. I want to leave a little bit of bulk there for the inlay, and you'll see what I'm going to be doing with that coming up here very shortly. So anyway, I'm just trying to take a lot of mass out of the belly of this bowl and getting it ready for the inlay. Well, it always helps to turn the camera on. Anyway, I cut a groove with a 3/16 inch parting tool from Crown. What we're going to do is expose the inside and the outside of this inlay. Oh man, it's just been one of those days. And on top of that, we're supposed to be getting a foot of snow. Yay. So that's certainly not the first time that I've done that, and it probably won't be the last. I decided to use some duct tape here on the inside and the outside because the wall thickness is really thin where the inlay is going, and I was actually worried that the resin was gonna weep through and run down the bowl. It was so thin. Using the Caradon chips, the Sahara, and what I'm using here, I want to get rid of any of the real fine material on it. I only want it coarse material, so that's why I get rid of all that fine material. But didn't get rid of it. I'm going to use it eventually. Just laying it in, and again, I'm looking for a uniform size. For the inlay, we're going to use the Pro Series. That's typically what I like to use when I'm doing these inlays in the rims. I made sure that I measured and stirred it correctly, as opposed to the last time I was using the epoxy. So anyway, I wasn't exactly sure what we're going to use for color, and then I decided to go with the alcohol ink and the violet. It should be a nice, pretty color. Now it did end up looking a little more pinkish than I had been going for. I wanted a violet color. Regardless, it's still a really nice color, and I like it. And just laying it in with a syringe here, I find that's probably the easiest way to do it as opposed to pouring, so it doesn't get all over the place. Now I decided to add a little content here that I usually don't, and it's just 2 minutes of me clearing snow in the driveway with my new tractor. So anyway, let me know what you think about it, and enjoy. So since I did my tractor video, I haven't really talked anything about it further. if you remember, it had kind of a small bucket on it and a plow that came with it. I found this one down in the Kawartha Lakes area, and my son and I actually configured it to fit onto the tractor here. It's a bucket off of a Ford, so we had to do some drilling of holes and a fair bit of welding to make it fit, but it seems to fit quite nicely. And it's really something that needed to be upgraded on the tractor, especially if I'm going to use it for my wood turning side of it and not just clearing of snow, which we seem to be doing a lot of lately. And while my son was actually home on holidays, we not only did the bucket, we replaced the brakes. And after he went back, I actually got a seat for it. So it's actually a fairly comfortable seat as opposed to what was on there before, which was the original seat. And this is a 1974 International. If you missed that in the tractor video. And this is actually really the first time that I've ever used a tractor to clear snow. As a matter of fact, I have very little tractor knowledge. As far as operation is concerned, if it's mechanical stuff, I can probably figure it out. But anyway, the blower here, I did pop the chain off in heavy snow once, but it seems to, after I put the chain back on, it's worked flawlessly ever since. I think that the tensioner just needs to be a little tighter on it. And if you're curious, we usually get about 4 feet of snow a year here, I would say, on average. All right, let's get back to wood turning. This is enough on the snow removal stuff. Anyway, let me know what you think. There you go. Let's trim it up. So to cut the inlay back, we're going to use the Hercules from Hunter Tool Systems. It actually cut back very easily. I've never used this material before. Thanks again to Joyce for sent that along. And it cut actually quite easily. And if you've done any body work on cars, then it kind of smelled like body filler if you're curious as to what it smelled like. Once the bulk of the inlay material was trimmed up, you'll see I'll switch back to the 5/8 bowl gouge, and I pretty much stick with that until the very end. Freshly sharpened one, as you see here. Little tough. This bowl was actually quite deep, so very hard. You can't keep the bevel running, rubbing on the surface of the wood. You could if you go on a very high arc, but I find when I'm working on bowls this size that are deep like this, I just kind of put the gouge more or less on its side and use it like a scraper, just like that last pass. Here I'm just exposing the inlay on the outside of the bowl. So as you can see, I mean, we easily lost another eighth of an inch, if not more, of thickness off the size of this bowl just by exposing this inlay. Uh, it's actually a really cool look and I really like doing it. I think I'll be doing a lot more of these in the future. Starting with the 3.5-inch dimple disc from sandpaper.ca. This is 60. I'm going 60 to 800. There is a discount code in the description down below to get 10% off your order. Just use code InlayGym at checkout. The great thing about Butternut, because it's so soft, it's easy to sand. So if your tool work isn't exactly the best, the sandpaper will certainly make up for it. All right, well, second week in a row, we're going to be using the Water Lux. And if we can get a good shine on this soft butternut bowl, we'll be able to get a good shine pretty much on anything. Well, all right, what do you think of our inlay? On the pinkish side of the house. Very feminine. That's all right, the majority of my customers are female, so
And that butternut, that Waterlux really brings that butternut alive. See inside. It's a very deep bowl. Anyway, we'll see you tomorrow. I don't know. Maybe it'll only take 2 coats. We'll have to see. Till then, see you tomorrow.
Last week we used 4-0 steel wool between coats. This week I decided to try the triple E buffing compound to see how that was going to work. And you know, I think they're probably pretty comparable. I don't know. It's something that I'm going to have to do more exploring on. And of course, cleaning with denatured alcohol before the next coat goes on, because you definitely don't want any of that buffing residue left on the surface of the bowl prior to putting the next coat on.
All right, so this is the second coat of Waterlux Sealer and Finish. All right. Second coat looks really good. I don't know. Maybe we won't need 3. And that would be a small miracle on this butternut, because butternut is quite soft and it really usually takes 3 coats of finish. There it is. Very cool inlay too. Alright, well, I don't know if we're going to need a 3rd coat or not, but if we do, I will do it the same way, and then I'll see you when we're doing the foot. Oh, got another snowstorm last night. Yay.
Up until this point, we've had a pretty decent winter, but we seem to be getting a fair bit of snow the last week or so. Anyway, it's winter in Canada, and that's what you can expect to get here every year. So this is a homemade vacuum chuck that I made. There's a faceplate that fits the lathe, 2 pieces of 3/4 inch MDF, and that's 4-inch plastic conduit. And there's a joint where I'm pointing there too, where they come together just to give it some more thickness. And then I just put the neoprene seals on the top of it, and there you go. You've got a homemade vacuum chuck, and it works actually pretty good. I typically only use this for the deeper bowls that I make. All right, let's finish this video up.
All right, so hey, check out my hat I got for Christmas. This is sent to me by my sister-in-law, Jackie. And of course, I am from New Brunswick originally. And New Brunswick, if you're not familiar, is a province on the east coast of Canada. So that's where I was born and raised. So thanks a lot, Jackie, for sending that along. All right, so let's talk about this week's projects. All right, so this has been 4 days since I stopped working on this, and I wiped the surface down with this once with acetone, and the resin just keeps on weeping through here. This was all cleaned off yesterday. So I don't know what to say about this. I'm thinking that, you know, I'm thinking that it's not going to make it. Please, if you've encountered this before, let me know in the comments what you've done to sort this out. I think what I'm going to do is rough it out to basically a roughed out dimension of what I want. That way I'm not trying to clean off 2-inch thick pieces of wood that are full of resin. And hopefully I'll just keep using the acetone, and hopefully that sorts it out. Anyway, if you've encountered this, please let me know if you've been successful or if it's, you know, firewood. So it's bad because, you know, I thought that this is going to be a really cool project, and well, it just didn't go my way again. All right, so this is the success story. This is that beautiful piece of butternut, 3 coats of Waterlux. It definitely needed 3. I couldn't get away with 2. And it's an absolutely beautiful wood, and I really dig in that profile as well. There's a shot of the inside. And of course there's the foot. One coat of finish on there, still needs a couple more. Shooting video, that's about the best I can do for this here. But it's a really neat inlay. Thanks a lot, Joyce, for sending those carrot-on chips along. And of course, the alcohol ink, the violet. Again, it's one of those colors that I think you have to mix really, really strong in order to get the desired effect you're looking for. To me, that's more a magenta color. And you know, I'm still sorting out and mixing these colors. Like, I'm still very much a rookie when it comes to intensity of color and that kind of business. So anyway, I'm getting better. Anyway, that's debatable because, you know, that's a screw up on me. That's not designer epoxy. I'm gonna wear that one 100%. Anyway, it's a beautiful bowl, 10 inches across, 6.5 inches tall, and 1 pound, 10 ounces is the weight of this. And that's a fairly decent sized bowl. And that's what makes Butternut a good candidate for large salad bowls, because it's actually quite light. So it's easy to pass around the table when it's got, you know, a big salad in it. So the problem is here, of course, it's a protected species, and rarely do I get a chance to get large Butternut where I can get good sized salad bowls out of it. So anyway, it's dying of what's called butternut canker, and you can't cut it unless the tree is basically dead. So anyway, it's a protected species and it's not easy to get your hands on. But anyway, let me know in the comments what you think about this week's project, and if you got any advice for that, to sort that out. I'm really hoping it's not a lost cause, but again, you know, thanks again for watching the videos. My subscription base is growing, so I really appreciate that. So speaking about that, if you haven't subscribed, please consider doing it. That way I can give away another bowl at 40,000 subscribers. So that'd be awesome if you can subscribe. I really appreciate it. And of course, comments. That's how we pick the winner of these bowl giveaways, is we pick from the comments. And if you need stuff, don't forget about our sponsors in the description down below. All the discount codes are down there, so make sure you check them out and give them some love if you need any stuff. One last thing, I just want to double check. I want to make sure that people know that code INLAYGYM is all you need for designer epoxy. It used to be INLAYGYM21. We've dropped the 21. It just makes more sense to go with INLAYGYM. So that's what you need for designer epoxy. All right, I don't know what we're going to do next week, because that's what this was supposed to be. So I'm going to have to come up with something else. Till then, take care, stay safe. Don't forget that bell. See you next week.